On a cold winter evening, a millionaire named Richard stepped out of his luxury car near a small corner store. He was used to people looking at him with admiration, or envy. But that night, a tiny voice stopped him in his tracks. "Sir, please wait." A little girl, no older than 7, ran up to him. Her clothes were worn, her shoes barely holding together. She held out a small glass bottle and whispered, trembling, "My baby brother is sick, he needs milk. I don't have money now, but I swear I'll pay you when I grow up." Richard froze. He had heard many pleas in his life, but something in her eyes, honest, desperate, yet dignified, pierced his heart. She wasn't asking for money for herself, not even food, but for her brother. People nearby watched in silence, some shaking their heads as if the girl's promise was foolish. But Richard felt a strange ache in his chest. He bent down and asked, "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered, clutching the empty bottle tighter. Without another word, Richard walked into the store. He not only bought milk but also bread, fruit, and warm soup. He placed the bag in Lily's tiny hands. Her eyes filled with tears. "I'll never forget this, sir. One day, I'll pay you back." Richard smiled faintly, unaware that this little encounter would change his life forever. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He had everything money could buy, mansions, cars, private jets, but the image of little Lily clutching that bottle haunted him. Her innocent words echoed, "I'll pay you when I grow up." The next morning, he instructed his driver to take him back to that neighborhood. But the girl was nowhere to be found. The storekeeper told him Lily lived in a rundown apartment a few blocks away with her widowed mother and sick baby brother. Richard hesitated outside the building. The stairway was dark, the smell of dampness heavy in the air. He knocked softly, and a tired woman opened the door. Lily gasped when she saw him standing there, holding another bag of groceries. "Sir, you came back," she said, her eyes wide. Richard simply nodded. "How's your brother?" The woman's lips trembled. "He's better because of the milk. Thank you." Richard left without explaining why he cared. But inside, something had shifted. For years, he had built walls around his heart after losing his wife to illness. He had buried himself in wealth and work, forgetting what it meant to feel. Now, one child's courage had cracked those walls. That evening, Richard looked out of his mansion's tall glass windows, thinking not of deals or profits but of a girl's promise to repay him. He whispered to himself, "Perhaps I've been the one in need all along." What Richard didn't know was that Lily would indeed keep her promise, though not in the way he imagined. Time moved forward, but Richard never forgot Lily. He quietly made sure her family never went hungry again. Groceries would appear at their door, bills would somehow be paid, and when Lily's brother needed medicine, the pharmacy always had it ready, though Lily never knew who was behind it. As years passed, Lily grew into a determined young woman. She studied hard, often staying up late after helping her mother. She wanted to be a doctor, because she remembered those long nights when her brother struggled to breathe, and a kind stranger had brought the milk that saved him. One evening, as Richard attended a charity gala, he spotted someone serving drinks in a waiter's uniform. His eyes widened. It was Lily, now about 17. She looked older, stronger, but those same honest eyes were unmistakable. She recognized him instantly. "Sir. You're the one who bought me milk years ago," she said, nearly dropping the tray. Richard chuckled softly. "And you're the little girl who promised to pay me back when you grew up." Her cheeks flushed. "I haven't forgotten. I'm working now, saving for college. I'll repay you, I promise." For the first time in years, Richard laughed, not the polite laugh he gave business partners, but a genuine one. "Lily, the world doesn't work that way. Kindness isn't a debt." But Lily shook her head firmly. "No, sir. You believed in me when no one else did. Someday, I will find a way." Richard didn't argue. Deep inside, though, he wondered if perhaps Lily's repayment would come in a form neither of them expected. Years passed, and Richard's empire began to crumble. A risky investment went wrong, then another, and soon headlines splashed across newspapers: Millionaire Richard Collins declares bankruptcy. Friends disappeared. Business partners turned their backs. The mansion was sold, the luxury cars repossessed. For the first time in decades, Richard stood in a small rented apartment, staring at bare walls. He had always been the giver, the rescuer, the man who provided. Now, he had nothing. His health also began to decline under the weight of stress and loneliness. One afternoon, while waiting for his medical appointment at a crowded clinic, Richard overheard a familiar voice calling out names. He turned, and froze. It was Lily. But she was no longer the struggling child he remembered. She wore a doctor's coat, her hair neatly tied back, a badge that read, Dr. Lily Anderson. Their eyes met. Lily gasped. "Sir." "Richard? Is that you?" He looked down, ashamed. "I don't expect you to remember me this way." But Lily's eyes filled with tears. She rushed forward and clasped his trembling hands. "Are you kidding? You're the reason I'm here today. You gave me milk when my brother was dying. You gave me hope." Richard tried to smile, but his voice cracked. "And now look at me. I have nothing left." Lily shook her head firmly, echoing the words she had once spoken as a child. "No, sir. You gave me everything. And now, it's my turn to repay you." Richard felt something he hadn't in years: peace. Perhaps this was what life had been preparing him for, to finally accept kindness. From that day on, Lily refused to let Richard feel alone. She arranged his medical treatments, visited him after long hospital shifts, and even brought home-cooked meals, just as he once had for her family. Richard often protested. "Lily, you're a doctor now. You should be building your own life, not looking after an old man who lost everything." But Lily only smiled. "Do you remember what I told you, sir? I'll pay you when I grow up. This is my chance." Weeks turned into months, and Richard slowly regained his health, not just because of medicine, but because of Lily's presence. For the first time since his wife's passing, he felt loved like family. One sunny afternoon, Lily invited him to the hospital's opening ceremony for a new children's wing. Richard sat in the front row, watching as she stepped up to the podium. "This wing is dedicated to the man who once gave a poor little girl milk for her brother," she announced, her voice steady though her eyes glistened with tears. "He taught me that one small act of kindness can change a life forever. Today, I honor him, my mentor, my rescuer, my friend." The audience erupted in applause as a curtain pulled back, revealing the plaque. The Richard Collins Pediatric Wing, built on kindness. Richard's eyes brimmed with tears. He looked at Lily and whispered, "So this is how you repaid me?" She nodded, squeezing his hand. "With interest, sir." For the first time in his long life, Richard understood, true wealth wasn't measured in money, but in the hearts we touch and the lives we change. And with that, Lily's promise was fulfilled.